I cannot go on. I will destroy the places, bound in chains and down to hell. I will build as a sword. The immortals always play me. Splatter demons of night. We are now.
And we're back, coming hot off the 250th landmark episode. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles live. How about that? It's really been more. It's really been more because we did bonus shows. This is really almost like the 260th show. It's happening. It's happening, and you're happening. Hello to everybody around the world. What's up? Gregor, what's happening? Yes, Dave Mason, lay on your souls. Here we go. That footage was smoking. Venom was ripping early on, for sure. Yes, good. Everybody's ready. Is that right, Ray Hogan? Venom was the most popular band in my middle school. And you went to school where? Connecticut? That's funny. Yeah, the chop game is strong, for sure. You know, you don't wake up with chops like this. You got to work it. Got to work it. Absolutely. But it's good to see everybody. I like doing the shows. I like doing them once a week. In a perfect world, we would do the show every Wednesday. In a perfect world. But, you know, sometimes we do the Bowery Electric thing on a Sunday, you know, so, but in a perfect world. Hey, John, how you doing? I got the picture you sent me. I'm going to show it on the show. You know, Chris Hoffman, hello from my dreaded employee picnic. Is that right? You're taking time out from your dreaded employee picnic to watch the show. Hey, Debo the Pro, yo. Hey, while we're at it, of course, Debo the Pro representing New York Hardcore Comics, one of our most cherished sponsors. What's up with this guy?
What's up?
Hail.
Hail, exactly.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
You're excited. This is like
Yeah.
This
is
is
a good
right in
one.
your wheelhouse.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's funny when you first got him. You said you were sending me the info. I said, "Oh, and you said you're gonna love who I just got."
Yeah, for sure.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
yeah. Good.
I remember drawing Venom on the back of many notebooks in high school.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you Long Island metal dudes,
That's right. Right.
I was running around like, on some hardcore shit at the time,
They walked the line, man. They definitely.
Yeah.
What? But
they were absolutely influential in a lot of bands, like when I managed Marauder, like Sob from Marauder, like loved Venom, so they were a big influence on a lot of the hardcore bands that were crossing over. But we will talk about that in a bit.
Absolutely.
In the meantime, today was a great event that we had. Right, here's a couple of your shots.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell us about what's going on here.
That is our friends in Maafa. This was yesterday, the Women of the Pit Stronger Together record release party at Generation Records. And not only is that Maafa, but that is also the drummer from the Mighty Rebel Matic actually played with them yesterday, which was pretty cool. And it was to celebrate the release of the album, which is a compilation of all, female-powered hardcore, and featuring a ton of great artists. And in fact, look at this crew right here. We got a great bunch of people here. I mean, obviously, Gina and Laura Dawn from the Women of the Pit with Elisa. And I see some people from Upstate Records in there. I see Scott Earth, and of course.
D, were you there yesterday? Yeah, that's Old Dirty Bastard's brother from the Wu-Tang Clan.
What?
Did you know that?
Who is?
The drummer.
Really?
No, I think it's his cousin.
Wow.
Ray's cousin. Maybe it's his brother. His brother or his cousin. Some shit like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a nice event. It was very well attended.
Oh, it was great. It really was. It was very cool. In fact, everyone came out in support, and those Generation Records events are so much fun, and everyone feels so at home there. They really know how to do it. There she is. What?
Hey, Victoria, I got to shout out Victoria here, because yes, in this household we do have Victoria's body butter, which is frequently used by the girlfriend unit. So shouting out Victoria and her body butter. So there you go.
That's awesome. This was fun. This was a fun one. It really was, despite the crappy weather. But it was another packed house.
Hey, hold on, let me address this. Hold your horses. Hey, listen, Rob Barber. Welcome to the party, my friend. So nice that you could make it. But let me explain something to you. There's he'll be on in a couple of minutes. So be patient, okay?
That's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Yeah. Where is he? Hey, can I do my fucking show, fucking UK, huh? Jesus Christ, man. Motherfuckers, man.
In celebration of today, I had to dig this out of the VHS vaults.
Yeah, this is good. Wait, hold on. Excuse me, Rob, have you heard of Satan?
Speaking of Satan.
Speaking of Satan, what is that you have?
This is the classic right here. This is the Ultimate Revenge.
Yeah, we're going to get into that on this
1985.
Show. Yeah.
This is just I'm surprised it didn't crumble in my hands for how many times we played it.
That was like your fucking Bible, bro. You listening to that shit, right?
Venom Slayer Exodus? Come on now. I mean, those were good days.
Yeah.
I was in 11th grade.
UK. Here you go. Okay, shouting out Rob Barber. Cheers. Rock on from the Scottish English border. Okay, we're good now. Right.
All right.
Studio 50 at Studio 54.
That's right. What's up, Paulie?
Yeah, right. Hail Abaddon. Stop yapping and start the intro music. Yes,
right.
Alric. Yeah.
On
Let's
that
get it
note,
on that note.
Anyway,
hey, so wait, you am I going to see you later?
I hope so. I got business to do. We got a show to do tonight.
Wait. I'm gonna. Where's the flyer? Hold on. Serial Poets. Here we go. Tonight, if you're in New York City, come check out. I'll be going down there after the show. Our sponsor, Organic Grill. Steven's playing with the Serial Poets. Nikki Bullets from Car Bomb Parade. Davey Hooligan from Enziguri. It's all happening, all acoustic at Organic Grill tonight. You know?
And a special surprise guest was just announced this morning.
That's right. Puzzle Panthers playing, right?
That's right. They're going to get up and do a couple songs. So you won't have to just look at our ugly mugs, you know?
Thank God. All right, bro. We'll talk to you in a bit.
I'll see you guys in a little bit.
All right. Hail Satan. There you have it. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles live, often imitated, never duplicated. We are sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, The Organic Grill, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Generation Records, 126 Hardcore Clothing, Upstate Records, and the Texas Silver Rush. The Texas Silver Rosh Hashanah. The Texas Silver Rosh Hashanah is a jewelry design firm and boutique store located in the birthplace of the Texas country music scene in Fredericksburg, Texas. Goddamn electric. They specialize in working with musicians in all music genres to design and create unique one-off pieces, as well as style them for stage, album covers, promo photos, and social media exposure. Their client list includes Rock Roll Hall of Famers Greg Rowley, Ringo Starr, and of course, Agnostic Front. Information and online sales are being taken at their Facebook and Instagram pages, and of course, www.thetexassilverrush.com. Come on now, Upstate Records. Sorry, I'm a little zonked today. Upstate Records is a New York-based DIY independent metal and hardcore label founded in 2017. They broke into the scene with their inaugural 26-band compilation in 2018 and have since then churned out over 80 releases in their brief 5-year history. In 2023, look for new releases by Mark Rizzo's new band Revenge Beast, Carl from Earth Crisis Freya, Fury of 5, Angry Corpus, and a few more surprises that are in the works. Check them out at www.upstaterecordsnewyork.com. Use the code STONE10 and get 10% off, you cheap fuck. Said, let's clear the deck. Let's bring our guest on. Let's make sure everything's okay in the chat room. Nobody's killing each other. Yes, the Slayer poster's back. Yes, just for this show. Okay, everybody seems to be behaving themselves. Let's clear the deck. What the heck? Here we go. Where's my intro? That said, today's guest is an English drummer hailing from Newcastle upon Tyne. He is known for his work with the bands Venom Inc. and Abaddon, and of course, the incredibly influential Venom. Please welcome, coming at us from Geordieland, Newcastle, Mr. Anthony Abaddon Bray. Hey, man.
Oh, fella.
How are you, buddy?
Can we just start this off by telling Rob Barber to go and fuck off? Rob, I'm fucking busy.
There you go. How's the weather over there?
It's all right. I'll take it.
Good. How you feeling? How you feeling health-wise?
No, not so bad. I've been fighting a little bit, but we'll get over it. We'll deal with it. It's all right. We'll wait till it comes back and we'll deal with it again.
Yeah. Are you well, let's just jump right into it and we'll get to all that. Did you grow up in a musical household? How did music come into your life?
No, not really. I was babysitting for my relatives at a very early age, and one of the guys who was I was babysitting for, him and his wife, he said, this is a record player. Have you used vinyl before? And I'm like, I mean, I was like, fucking, I don't know what, like 9 maybe. I was like, no, not really. He goes, well, listen, this is Black Sabbath, this is Led Zeppelin, this is Pink Floyd, this is Deep Purple. Just fill your boots, have a good time. And I was like, what the fuck?
Wow.
Hadn't heard anything like this. I mean, the probably the heaviest stuff might have been Queen that I'd heard at the time. Punk wasn't even heard of. You know,
Sure.
the heaviest rock was that I'd heard of was the stuff on the radio. You know,
Right.
and all of a sudden, there's this, you know, Bloody Sabbath and stuff like that, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Incredible way to grow up. I mean, I picked it up pretty much overnight. Got into it straight away.
What was where did you grow up?
I grew up in the northeast of England. It was in a very industrial area, and I think that's got a hard bearing on the 3 members of Venom, and some of the other members of the bands that grew up around then that became the new wave of British heavy metal. We grew up around the docks, the coal pits, the heavy industry, shipyards, all this kind of thing. Our parents, you know, mums, dads, uncles, aunties, brothers, were all working in heavy industry.
This is the Newcastle area.
Yeah. It's very much northeast coast. It's before you get up towards Scotland. It's the area that was attacked quite often by Vikings and this kind of thing. So it's a very coastal area.
It was very accessible. It was very accessible to them early on. So once they had success, they kept coming back for about 100 years, right?
Yeah. But I mean, the shop learned to fuck off.
Yeah, right. Didn't I know we'll get to this later, but Hadrian's Wall end there?
Hadrian's Wall, yeah, the Emperor Hadrian. It was it's the northern outpost of the Roman Empire.
Yeah.
It's about as far as the Romans got, and they built a wall right across the thinnest part of England, from kind of Carlisle right across to a place obviously called Wall's End. And that Wall's End is where Neat Records was.
Right.
Very small little, again, industrial town, shipyard town. And a lot of the bands, Raven, Tyson Dog, Atomcraft, all these bands kind of grew up around that area, and we kind of bounced off each other. You know, it was so progressive, and the English punk thing had just about run its course then. So the anger that was left over from all of that kind of stuff, and all this industrial stuff landing upon these kids who were like 17, 18, 19 at the time. It was just, it was phenomenal, you know.
Why drums? What inspired you to pick up drums? Why did you gravitate to drums? And who were your early drum influences?
I started playing drums because Jeff Dunn, who was Mantis in Venom eventually, he had a band and he was looking for a drummer, and I didn't play drums, but I was looking to be in a different band. I was actually in a bedroom band, playing bass with my friends, Eric Cook and Clive Archer. And Eric Cook became Venom's manager, long-term manager, and Clive Archer became Venom's first singer. Right. So the little band that we had, because I contacted Jeff Dunn, I went and got some drums, and I turned up at this thing and thought, how hard can it be to play fucking drums, you know?
It was one of those deals, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was influenced by people like Ian Pace from Deep Purple and Cozy Powell. But even Cozy Powell said, you know, he was doing something with I don't know, Michael Schenker or something. He said, how hard can it be to play fucking heavy metal, you know? And it's like, if Cozy says that, then I can do it.
Well, I think there's Cozy Powell, then there's Ian Pace, and then I'm a big fan of Ian Pace, man. I saw Deep Purple play a couple years ago, and he's still at it, and he's still great. Ian Pace.
Hell yeah, he's incredible, absolutely amazing. The guy's got to be 70 odd, you know. He's absolutely brilliant.
And just a little bit of trivia: the only original member of Deep Purple that's still in the band, who's every incarnation of the band, is Ian Pace. He's the only one that's been there since day one to today. The only one.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Been there. So, Clive Archer and Eric Cook, you met these guys when you had an apprenticeship working in a factory that your father worked at. Tell us a little bit about that, about like that whole setup there. Interesting story there.
It was in the town that we grew up in. The factory was the biggest part of the town. It was the center of the town. And if your dad worked there was no such thing as nepotism. So if your dad worked there or your uncle worked there, you know, every chance you're going to get given a job. I mean, it was
still the medieval fiefdom system, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Of the intake of apprentices that year, I'm pretty sure it was around 200 apprentices taken on. So you had to really go something to get fucking thrown out of there. You know, it was like which I managed to do. It was quite a thing because the apprentices were taken on to take over the work of the guys that were leaving. You know, all these old guys had been there for years and they were coming to retirement age. So all us 20-year-olds were supposed to be taking over the helm, as it were.
Yeah. And at the time, when this sort of new influx of workers came in, it was all young people, and guys like you, long hairs, rock guys?
Yeah, very much so. It was all the kind of first thing most people did with their wages was buy a motorbike and go and get tattoos.
Sure.
So it was all everybody was talking about the same stuff. If you liked Deep Purple, then you liked Rainbow. If you liked you know, if you like Rush, maybe you got into Van Halen. It was all these bands were playing locally. We were playing at the City Hall in Newcastle. Right. Every night you could go out and you could see Black Sabbath, you could see UFO, you could see Scorpions, Girls' School, Iron Maiden, all the American bands coming over, Rush and Van Halen. You know, all these were bands that were brand new.
Sure.
To these shows, you know, and it was just you couldn't. You had a group of friends at work, and you sort of expanded as you went into pubs. You were going to the pubs, then you were going to the clubs, and it was just you'd get in at a Friday night and a Saturday night in Newcastle city centre. You'd get 2,000 people in a club every night, whether there was a band on or not. You know, you were in the club there.
It's like we talk about a lot on the show. There was a community and a culture, and Yeah, it was you kind of got to meet people, and then you got to meet their friends, and you got to hang out with some of their friends, and then other people, and it was just you bounced off the same people week in, week out, and it was fantastic. You mentioned City Hall. That's where Motorhead recorded the infamous "No Sleep Till Hammersmith," right?
I think so. I think a good part of it was recorded there. Yeah. I mean, Motorhead used to play every year. Every year they played there. Thin Lizzy. Oh man, it was just incredible times.
That's a group I wish I would have saw early on. Thin Lizzy. I you know.
Best band I ever saw. Best band I ever saw, and I've seen a lot.
You know who I love also? Who is Rory Gallagher?
Well, right. That's the only gig, and I feel embarrassed about this, but that's the only gig I've ever walked out of.
Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't get it. It was too bluesy. I didn't get it. I feel really embarrassed. I should have stayed.
I think later on, you know, now that I can appreciate, you know, slide guitar and a lot of the stuff, you know, I've sort of rediscovered his catalog, and you know, he was a great player before he ran himself out. Yeah. Do you think you know, you're talking about kind of growing up in that environment? It reminds me a little bit of, I think, Black Sabbath coming up in Birmingham, right? And where Judas Priest came up, and even where Def Leppard came up, and Joe Cocker, that sort of industrial working class environment. Do you think that sort of contributed to the music and the work ethic?
100%, yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot of people have said before that growing up in the northeast of England, there were two ways to get out of it, to get away from the work and all this kind of thing, and that was music or football. Football being soccer, you know, and it was like a lot of people got out of it by being great footballers, and a lot of us got out of it through music and through. I guess we grew up and we were in the bands at exactly the right time, because the feeling across the world after this kind of after the rise of punk. The feeling was that everybody with long hair and denim and leather were sort of coming together and getting out in the streets, and getting the music heard. And AC/DC were over, and it was just incredible times.
As we're moving on, wait, something just caught my eye. Where did I see this? Hold on, let me find this.
Better not be fucking Rob Barber again.
No, we'll get back to him. Is that right? Mark Doyle says Tony's a big Pink Floyd guy. Is that right?
Yeah. Love Floyd, absolutely.
I do too. I do too.
It came from those babysitting sessions again.
Is that right?
Yeah, borrowing the albums. Yeah.
Piper at the Gates of Dawn, Syd Barrett. All that.
Incredible time.
I'm a big Pink Floyd guy too. Did you know what I just heard that I really, really enjoyed is the remastered, remixed Animals record came out.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's really good, man. Really good.
I haven't heard that. I'll have to listen to that.
Yeah, me, I'm sure like yourself, I know that music, it's imprinted in my brain. So to hear a new clean mix, with a couple of things in there, up a little louder than last time. I love that record. I love that record, man. And I love all the Syd Barrett stuff,
When I had the recording studio in the sort of mid-90s, we needed to buy a new desk. We bought the studio, or we inherited the studio somehow from Brian Johnson in AC/DC.
Sure.
And he put the studio together. It was beautiful, but we wanted a new desk. And one of the ones that came up for sale was down south in England. And we went down to see it. And we knocked on the door. This guy, and it was Dave Gilmour flogging this desk that he'd put in his house to record some live stuff, and he had it in the garage. And I was just, we'd recorded and released black metal, 10 years before that and all this kind of shit. And I was just like a fucking fanboy. I was ridiculous.
I've seen Roger Waters here. I live in Manhattan. I've seen him in the street. I've seen him in the street by himself. I saw him on the subway once. It's like, it's like, Roger Waters, like, fuck. It's like, the guy that wrote The Wall, holy shit.
Yeah.
So that said, so tell us, how did Venom come together initially? What were the origins? How did it come together with everybody?
Well, like I say, Jeff was advertising for a drummer. I answered the advert. Went to the phone box to ring him up. There was no such thing as a mobile phone, so I went to the call box on the corner, and I rang him up, and we agreed to meet. He had a band already with no drummer, so we met in this church hall. Was it church hall first or the school? Probably the school. And we ran through some stuff, covers of Motorhead, covers of Judas Priest, Green Manalishi, stuff like that. And when we finished, I sort of sat down and I said, look, I think the way you play is great. I think the other guys in the band really suck, big style. If you want to do something, if we want to get anywhere, I think we have to make some changes, And he said, well, tell me what you think. Tell me what your options are. So I said to him that I had this guy Clive Archer, and I said he's a massive Judas Priest fan. He was also into Alice Cooper and stuff like this. He was into doing corpse paint because of Alice, long before any of the other bands were doing corpse paint. And I introduced them. I actually introduced them at a Judas Priest gig at the City Hall.
Wow.
And I brought this other bass player in, and we just started getting things rolling a lot quicker. I think Jeff felt that he didn't have to kind of stand around. He could be theatrical. We could set up on stage. I turned up with a drum riser before I even had a proper drum kit. And smoke machines and lights and all that kind of thing. I was always about trying to be theatrical with it and trying to be like, give us an edge, And that was that's really how we started. We wound up in a church hall in Newcastle, up the street from where all the motorbike shops were. So it was like, we used to get people coming in. They would go up the motorbike shops and sort of hang about with these cool guys with, leather and studs and whatever. And they'd hear this band in this church hall, and they'd come in to have a listen and sit on the floor. And we were attracting 30 or 40 people to these rehearsals.
Is that what you did back then? You could have open rehearsals and just invite everybody?
People would just sort of open the door, have a look in, and just see what was going on. And if it was a band just kicking off, they'd just come in and sit and have a listen, and just chill out. People started bringing a couple of bottles of cider and a few cans of beer and sit and have a joint or something. And the same people would turn up every week, and we were like, the music was getting a little bit better, and we were getting a little bit better knowing each other. And that was basically how it kicked off, and it went for maybe about a year like that. We weren't called anything. We didn't have a name. We weren't bothered about being called anything. And one of these biker guys one day said, what's a great name is Venom. We were, well, it's as good as anything for now, yeah.
Sure.
It turned out at the time there were 3 Venoms in England. And one of them was the guy who wrote for Sounds magazine, Jeff Barton. He really liked this other band, this other Venom, because they were kind of Kiss-like. And we did a show for a birthday party, and we just went fucking crazy over the top. And Jeff Barton sort of said, I think these other guys need to change their name because there's only one Venom, and they're from Newcastle, and that's
right. When things got rolling, and you mentioned before, Neat Records, and Neat Records. When I think of Neat Records, I think of a lot of like Tigers of Pantang, Raven, Fist. Were these bands your contemporaries? Were these the bands? Were you all playing the same circuit, so to speak?
These bands were all playing the circuit. They were all working around the clubs and the working men's clubs, all this kind of thing. They were very much our I don't know about contemporaries. They were people that we looked up to very much.
Okay.
And they were the kind of the guys who were professional at what they were doing. They all knew what they were about. They knew they'd been doing it for years. And Venom just turned up really like the punks on the block. We plugged in the studio, and a couple of guys from Fist were in the control room, and they said to the engineer in the control room, like, who the fuck is that, and what are they doing? And the guy Keithy just said, well, that's Venom. That's these new guys, Venom, and that's what they do. And these guys from Fist were like, because they were more of a, I think now we can say they were a heavy rock band.
Yeah.
They were considered heavy metal at the time, but I think they would even say themselves that they were a rock band playing heavier music. And the Tigers were very, Raven were probably the most, because of the speed of some of the Raven stuff, they were the most out there kind of band, but they were still very tame compared to what Venom was doing.
Sure.
And I remember a gig that we did, a private gig, and we played at this silly local club, but we had flash bombs and smoke and all that kind of shit. And I remember all the smoke clearing, and there was these 5 figures silhouetted at the bottom of the hall coming to see us, and it was the Tigers of Pantang. They came in to look at what this new thing was. What was it supposed to be about? But be fair, Lemmy did the same. Lemmy turned up at a program called ECT that we did. Lemmy turned up just to see, well, what the fuck is this about? Who is this? What are they? They've come from nowhere. Right. They've got no money. They've got no background. They've done nothing. They haven't paid their dues, as we called it then, by playing around clubs and playing to 20 people and an old man and a dog, we kind of just stepped up and said, fuck you, this is us and this is what we're going to do. First proper gig we played was headlining a festival in Belgium. Second proper gig we ever did was in New York City. That's fucking unheard of.
You mentioned the Belgium gig. Was that the one you went to, and there was like 3,000 people there, and you were just blown away by it? It was, yeah. And then at that point you kind of realized, wow, it's sort of happening out. Yeah.
We didn't even have hotel rooms. We went over in a car and a van, which I managed to. I was still an apprentice, so I taught one of the guys I was working with. I said, look, we're playing in Belgium. And he's like, what the fuck? I said, yeah, but we can't get the gear there. And he said, look, I'll drive. I've got a van. We'll put the gear in the van. I'll drive over. No, you know, we didn't have carnage. We didn't have insurance. We didn't have we didn't have nowhere to sleep. We didn't have food to drink. We just went there.
Youth.
Yeah, we just went. Just get in the fucking back of the van and go. Yeah. And so we went to Belgium, and then the next thing you've got John Zazula ringing up and saying, come to New York. And it's like, you know, second gig, we're in New York City. What the fuck?
Now, was this out before you came to New York? Was Welcome to Hell out before you came to New York?
It was, yeah.
It was.
Yeah.
I thought it was, because that's what really got you on John. And, you know, John Zazula, I mean, of course, I'm sure everybody out there knows, rest in peace, John Zazula. He was a show before he passed. A real key figure in all this. Could you tell us a little bit about the making of this record, or give us any perspective on this? I know, of course, it was on Neat Records, and I know, I mean, doing my homework, you know, it's described as a mix of heavy metal and speed metal, which is interesting. Could you give us any perspective on this release?
Yeah. Jeff had been to a party. We'd getting rid of our bass player, and Jeff had been to a party on a night time, and he bumped into this guy called Conrad Lant. And Conrad had all these ideas about a band as well, the similar ideas to us. And Jeff and him got talking, and Conrad happened to work at Neat Records. He was like a tape op, kind of a bit of a gopher at the time, go and buy some chips for us, go and make a cup of tea, this kind of thing. So
sure.
But he knew the background, and he hung out with the Tigers, he hung out with Fist, he hung out with Raven, he carried their gear for them, blah blah blah. So he was in an absolute insider. And when Jeff came back to rehearse with me again, he said, look, I've met this guy, and I've invited him today. So when Conrad turned up, he was very cocksure, and he was very knowledgeable about the local scene, you know. And we because he kept bugging the guy who worked. Don't forget, Neat Records was a tiny little place, one man run kind of place with one girl that answered the phones, that kind of thing.
Which is incredible in retrospect when you look at the roster they had, and in retrospect you look at. I was looking today when I was doing my homework at just their releases, and amazing. It was one guy and a secretary, right?
That was it. But the guy wasn't even into hard rock, heavy metal.
Sure.
Neat 1 and Neat 2, Neat 01 and Neat 02 are like I think they're folk songs. They're not. You know, he wasn't into doing this. The fact that this kicked off had nothing to do with him, apart from the fact he was in the right place at the right time, and the fact that the people he employed, like Steve Thompson, like Keith Nickel, those sort of people, didn't know what they were doing. These producers, these engineers knew exactly what they were doing. When they got handed these long-haired guys, they didn't freak out. They didn't shirk away. They knew what to expect. They knew what to expect from the equipment. The equipment was not the best you could afford, but the best that Neat could afford, but they weren't the best equipment at the time even. But the guys got the best out of it. So when Venom wandered in, and Venom had this new level of volume and intensity and attitude, these guys still weren't too daunted by it. So when we wandered in and brought this badass arseholeness, they were like, yeah, sure, I've met a load of arseholes, don't worry about it, just plug in. Plug in, do your stuff and fuck off.
Yeah, that's great, because so many times you hear these stories of, we went into the studio and they had no fucking idea how to deal with us, you know?
Yeah. Well, these guys knew how to deal with heavy rock bands, but they knew how to deal with bad attitude as well. They knew how to deal with people being arseholes. And the thing was that because Conrad was such an arsehole to the people at Neat, saying, you know, I want my band in the studio, I want my band in the studio, I want my band in the studio, I want my band in the studio. the guy who owned the place just said, look, fucking hell, this weekend, bring your band in the studio, record a demo, and never mention it again. That's it.
Right.
You've got your band, you've got your demo. That's it.
Sure.
Never mention. So we went in and we did the demos, the first demos we did, Angel Dust Razor Dead, that stuff.
Right.
And it got reviewed in Sounds magazine,
Mm-hmm.
like more than anything the other bands had done. And because the guy who owned Neat Records wasn't a record guru, but he was a businessman, so he could see the potential that this little band from Wall's End and across the water were
Sure.
attracting so much interest. Maybe we should be doing an album, and that album became Welcome to Hell. You know.
And you designed the cover, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I was still working at the factory at the time.
Who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it? Not only does he work in the factory with the machines, but he's a graphics designer too.
Yeah, well, it was a case of avoiding work as much as I could, and just finding a quiet place to sit down and do all this artwork. You know.
Sure. I want to mention. With kind of segues into this bit here, and I know we're skipping around with this show. We kind of go where the horse leads us, but
yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about this, which is now legendary, iconic, show in New York City in 1983 at the Paramount Theater with Metallica. We all know Johnny Z was a big part of this. Can you tell us about how this came apart?
Yeah, John was. He wanted us to play. He wanted us to turn up in New York and play these gigs. One was a Friday night. One was a Sunday night. He didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know anything about hiring equipment. So we rented a big trailer thing that would go on a ship, and we actually put pyrotechnics in there. We put everything we had. We put detonators in there. I mean, they're talking about the time. They're talking about the time when the IRA was still relevant,
right,
in England, and we're putting all this fucking black gunpowder onto a ship and sending it to Central Park. You know what I mean?
So you just packed it up with the pyro, the drums, the amps. You put it all into a cargo container and drove it to the port.
We just drove it to the port in Wall's End, and we just sort of took our leave of it. We walked away from it, and then the next thing we've all flown to New York, and we're in Johnny's house, and he said, "Oh man, there's this fucking trailer turned up," and I'm like, "This thing just turned up outside his house on his front fucking street."
I mean, that couldn't have been cheap either. That was probably expensive to do that.
Yeah, probably. I mean, there was such a like a Rolling Stone feeling about this, like it was just gathering, it was just gathering momentum.
Sure.
And Sazula, John, and Marsha were talking to the guys from Neat, and they were talking to Monty Connor, and Monty Connor's talking to the guys from Japan, and everybody's like, "We've got to have fucking Venom, man. We've got to have Venom."
Sure.
And John's saying, "I've got this great band that I love, and they're young guys, and we're bringing them from the West Coast. They've never been over here. They've never been up to the East Coast. They haven't played to this crowd. They're hungry as fuck. You're hungry as fuck. I think it's going to be insane."
God bless John Zazula.
Oh yeah, I mean the man was a genius. But don't forget again that there's us on this level, and when I say us, I mean us, Raven, Tigers Fist, the bands. But on the same level, like I say, you've got Monty Connor, you've got the guys from Banzai Records, you've got Dave Wood at Neat Records, you've got John Zazula, Megaforce, and you've got all these other people, and all of those guys were also basically grown-up punks who just took a chance on the bands that were there available at the time. There was this wave of bands, and all of a sudden, as soon as we start doing it, all these bands from Germany, Sodom, Exciter, Creator, sorry, not Exciter, Destruction, Creator, all these bands are suddenly thrown into the mix, and then you've got all the bands from South America, all Sepultura, all those bands thrown into the mix.
Yeah.
And then all the Norwegians, the black metal bands. It's crazy.
Yeah. was when you know, it was interesting when I guess I didn't focus on this too much until doing my homework, but it was 2 shows in a big venue. The Paramount was a pretty big place. 2 shows, and I guess the second show there was some damage to the venue on the second night. Is that right?
No, that was the first night. We blew a hole in the stage, and there was we blew a water main as well. So it wasn't just a hole in the stage. There was actually water sprouting out through it.
Nice.
And because I'd worked in the factory, I had manufactured these metal kind of turrets, and you had 3 of them sat in a box surrounded by sand, and we had 12 boxes, so 30 odd of these steel canisters. And when the explosion went off, the first explosion at the beginning of the set, at the end of the gig, the gig promoter and Johnny Z took me up to the balcony at the Paramount, and embedded in the wall above all these kids' heads that had been in there, embedded in the wall was this steel pot that I'd made in the factory in walls in Newcastle. You know, just insanity, man. It's crazy. There was one guy who was a big guy. He'd been to Vietnam, and he was like a stage bouncer kind of guy. And he said afterwards, he was a really quiet, nice guy, but he said afterwards, he said, you know, man, he says, I've been to Vietnam, I've seen everything, but I would not go on stage with fucking Venom again. I'm not doing this on Sunday.
Hey, I want to show you. I want to show you. I guess that same year, or the year before, I went to a show at the Paramount. I took this photo. Here's a picture of the Paramount. This was Dead Kennedys, SSD Control, Kraut, and DOA. But for those that may be wondering, this is what the Paramount in Staten Island looked like, you know, in its glory days. It was really a beautiful old one of these beautiful old theaters. And here's a shot that I took fairly recently when I drove past there fairly recently. It's still sitting there, but it's of course, you know, very far removed from its former glory. It's just sort of sitting there rotting, you know, empty. You know, those kind of venues around the world, you know, it's just, I think there's like they cut it up into a few different stores, but it's still there. And when I drove past it, it just brought back a lot of memories, you know.
Well, I mean, that's the same as kind of Studio 54, you know. That was closed down until we we came and did that show with Slayer and Exodus, and that was the first show that reopened in Studio 54. So again,
and I know we're skipping around, but you know, this is going up a couple years, but this was sort of the incredibly influential VHS release of Venom, Slayer, and Exodus from that tour, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
And
I mean, it was that was a cracking tour, because once again, you've got bands that were I won't say emerging, but they were really sort of breaking their teeth. You know, Slayer were getting on top of it. Exodus were always incredible.
Yeah.
And we all got on really well together. You know, I mean, there was a famous incident with Tom and Kronos, but you know, at least said the better.
Yeah. Yes, things are right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else? How about? I want to talk about. Okay, so just sort of moving on to this, because this is all sort of happening within the same couple of years. But I think in a lot of ways, this was the record, at least over here in the States. This was the record like that first came on my radar screen. Could you give us any perspective on this?
Yeah, I think by that time we were a little bit more aware of what the recording process was like. We were more aware of the people that we were working with in the recording process. We'd had to record Welcome to Hell in like 3 days, record and mix it. So it was very punky in attitude. It was very throwaway. It was very first take. So the drums are they're a bit rough, but they're they're ready to go. And with black metal, we had a little bit more time to think about it, a little bit more time with the writing process, a little bit more time with the recording process, and the equipment had getting better, and we'd getting a bit better at playing, you know. So
Yeah.
it was a great record to make, but it was again instantly influential on a massive scene, predominantly the Scandinavian scene.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff that came out of that, you know, with the all the corpse paint, the church burnings, all that kind of stuff. So it did what we had done initially. It did what we had done with Welcome to Hell. It did what, you know, and then it did it again with black metal. It had this leaps and bounds of influence and of intensity. So it was it was a great record to make, but we didn't have any real limitations then. We felt as if we still weren't making any money. I mean, don't forget, through all of this, I'm still on the dole. I'm still on. I'm you know, I've quit my job because I walked in one day. I got called into the manager's office in the factory that I worked in between Welcome to Hell and black metal. I got called in. And the guy says, there's all these guys sitting there with suits on. And the guy says, one of the most incredible things I've ever heard. He said, son, you know, we've read all these magazine reviews about your band and blah, blah, blah. He says, you have to make a choice. Do you want to travel around the world and be a rock star, or do you want to work for us? And I'm like, I can't believe you're even fucking asking me that. What do you think I want? I'm fucking 19. Goodbye. So
how did your father take it?
Not impressed.
No.
Yeah, my dad didn't trust the scene. He didn't trust. He'd looked into, you know, as he could. Then he didn't have social media or anything. So
sure.
You know, you talk to people and you talk about people who know people and blah blah blah. And he said, look, this Neat Records isn't to be trusted. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your energy. He said, you know, I like the fact that you're so fired about it, but you know, are you going to make enough money? You're going to be able to buy a house. You're going to be getting married. You're going to be having kids.
Sure.
You know, all these things. You're 20-year-old. You're not thinking like that.
I mean, it is understandable considering the track record of those sort of labels, you know, of that era, you know, coming out. You know, it is understandable. I mean,
absolutely.
Record labels were just notorious for just taking advantage of bands and you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was like he'd got me into that job as a because before I took the job, I went to like a jobs fair thing, and the lady was talking to me, and she said, "Look, you've done lots of art, done really well with art, and all this kind of stuff. You know, graphic design was becoming a big deal then, and blah blah blah." Sure. She said, "You know, my dad was like, no, he's going to work in the factory. Forget it." So, you know, as far as my dad was concerned, he'd done his fatherly duty, you know, and that's all he can do.
Yeah, you know, I want to ask you, and it's a couple people. Let me see. Yeah, even our friend Heggs. I want to ask you. He asks, who are the punk influences? Now, I'm not sure if they're punk influences here, but obviously, when you guys were coming up, there must have been sort of a punk sort of. You guys must have crossed paths. You must have cross-pollinated. Anybody from those days that you were in contact with or friends with or influenced?
Absolutely. Exploited, GBH, you know, all the bands like that. Even, I mean, one of the guys in the band who came to record for Neat Records was Evans in a band called Warfare, and their background was all, you know, British punk.
Yeah, wasn't that the drummer? The drummer was in the Angelic Upstarts, right?
That's right. Yeah, I mean the Upstarts were a band that we were around all the time. So that kind of the Cockney influence and the influence that came out of London was a massive. But it was for everybody. You know, it was all over TV. The Sex Pistols were all over the place. Sure. And you know, the Damned, and the Cure, and all this, you know, all this stuff. But it was getting watered down again to be on TV. But then again, so was metal. You know, the Maiden was getting watered down, and Priest were getting watered down, and Kiss were on TV, but it was watered down. And it was like, yeah, but the real punk, the real on the streets fucking punk, that's us. That's what we're about. That's us. You know, punks with long hair. You know, and it was like when we first played Hammersmith, the crowd was a mix of people with long hair, people in denim and leather, but also punks and skinheads. Now, before that, at school, if you were a skinhead, if you were a punk, and you saw somebody with long hair, there'd be a fight going on. There'd be punch-ups in the street. But not at our gigs, and I couldn't get that. And it was Lemmy explained to me that, yeah, he says, they get it. They get the grind. They get the balls that's out there. They get the fact that you're a struggling musician and you're struggling to do a job. But so that's why I never, ever forgot that the people who pay for a ticket to come and see me have to put up with the same shit that I had to put up with for 7 days a fucking week or 5 days a week or whatever, just to get the fucking e-ticket to come and see me. So who the fuck am I, you know?
Absolutely. And our good friend Ratbone says Venom and Motorhead, the two bands that got respect from punk. I mean, it's almost like Venom and Motorhead, you know, if you at a punk show or you guys were you guys were one of the two bands that really just crossed over and got respect. There was never, you know, there was no doubt Venom and Motorhead, you know, we love them. We're punks, but we love them, you know? Because
neither bands were trying to do that.
That's right. That's right.
Both bands were simply being ourselves and being influenced by what was around us. Of course, we were massively influenced by Motorhead, you know, and Motorhead were influenced by the blues bands before them and the rock bands before them. It's because there's no pretense, no bullshit.
You know, I mentioned this in the pre-show, but I mean, just as part of the long-lasting influence of Venom, I managed a band called Marauder, who was a New York, we'll call them now they have a term, a metalcore band, but you know, they were a band very much like Biohazard, who took sort of you know, metal and hardcore and sort of mixed it with a hardcore sort of sensibility. But the thing with Marauder is the guitar player Saab, God rest his soul, huge Venom, you know, influenced by Venom. So here he's bringing this sort of influence into this New York hardcore thing, and that almost created in itself a new subgenre. Very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's those people who take these kind of influences or ideas and then have their own thing that they kind of run with.
Sure.
That break open all these new doors, you know, and they open all these new bands.
Yeah. Hey, let me say, Jason Christie, I see you doing a super chat. Everybody with the questions. We're gonna do questions at the last part of the show. I know there was one earlier on also. I got to dig it out. Who was that? We'll do all the questions towards the end of the show. So hold your horses on the questions. Let's get through the format first, all right?
Yep.
That said, you know, people got some questions for you. What I want, you know what? Let's do this. Let's not take a break. I want to talk about this actually. And I know we're skipping. I know we're skipping around here, but this is as we're talking about sort of like this New York hardcore thing and the New York bit. This is another incredible show in New York. This was at the old Rock Hotel at the Ritz on 11th Street, but it was another two nights. This was from 1986. One show was Overkill and Carnivore opening. The other show was Cro-Mags. Was coming to New York a special place, an exciting place for you guys?
Yeah, it wasn't. You know, we didn't set out that way, I don't think, but it became every time we came to New York, it sort of set off another, you know, another set of boundaries, another set of steps, all the way through the band's history, right up into Venom Inc.
Right.
At Webster Hall, you know, there was always this New York thing that had a kind of a springboard effect. Mm-hmm. with the band and playing with Cro-Mags, you know, and Voivod. I mean, they're so different bands, you know.
Sure.
But playing with bands like that kept us understanding. I mean, that's what 6 years later, 7 years later, and it's still got us realizing that that's the background. That's our background. You can throw Judas Priest, you can throw Kiss in, but that's not relevant. These bands are relevant. These bands and these venues and this city. That's that's the dirt of the street. That's the reality. That's the real spit and polish. That's what Venom is. That's what Venom always was. It's what Venom would be if we did it again. It would have to be.
Yeah. And I will, I got to say, Chris Williamson, who did all these Rock Hotel shows, he really put together some great bills, man. He really mixed it up and put together some great bills. I know he's not the most beloved figure in the New York hardcore scene. He started a record label, Rock Hotel Records, and put out Cro-Mags and Murphy's Law. But boy, he put on some great shows that we all went to and really loved back in the day. Really.
Yeah, I mean those characters, like we're talking about characters before, and you had to. Quite often you were putting your kind of mortgage on the line, So you had to be
Right.
you had to be pretty much out there if you were some record label or some merchandise guy or some venue promoter. You had to kind of have the balls to go out and do it. And when you're talking about maybe 3,000-4,000 metalheads who get pissed up or get stoned or whatever and don't like a certain thing you do, you can get into a fight and an argument with every one of them, but you're making it happen on their doorstep,
Yeah. There's the comment thing. You know what? Let me take my first sponsor break for we'll do a couple minutes and we'll be back and we will continue. I'll see you in about 5 minutes, okay?
Very cool.
There you go. Absolutely. Our guest today is Abaddon from Venom. We're going to take a sponsor break. We're going to come back. We're going to, all your questions. Listen, don't worry. All your questions are going to get answered. Don't get your panties all bunched up. We're doing a great show. We do great shows. That said, let's hear from our sponsors for a second, okay?
Since 19th Generation Records has been a mainstay of the New York metropolitan area music scene. Today, they offer a diverse selection of new and used rock, jazz, indie, hip-hop, punk, hardcore, metal, blues, soundtrack, and reggae LPs, as well as t-shirts, posters, and other merchandise. They buy used record collections and music memorabilia and will pay you top dollar for them. House calls made for large collections in the tri-state area. Call or email generationrecords@gmail.com and follow them on Facebook and Instagram.
Hey guys, Vlad from Organic Grill. As you can see, we're in a new location on West 3rd Street, right by Blue Note and Comedy Central. The place is bigger, kitchen is bigger, we have more varieties, more food. We are looking forward to treat you guys with great dishes. All Hardcore Chronicles, welcome to Organic Grill. We are going to serve all the events as we usually do, and we are happy to see you guys.
Peace, what it do? Welcome to NYHC Comics at 117 Main Street, Dobbs, Surrey, New York. I'm Debo the Pro with my homie
Lee Farley.
Welcome to the spot. Specializing in yesterday's and today's comic books, rare CGCs, toys, collectibles,
Got skateboards, old school tapes, Magic the Gathering, Warhammer.
video games, original art pieces by your favorite New York City and worldwide artists. Let's go. Skate decks all day, baby.
We also have the young readers sitting here for like 10 and under. The Pops. People love the Pops.
Star Wars. We are New York hardcore. We always rep the scene. Let's get it on.
And we're back. This is the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Hey, I want to mention a couple of things. Shows coming up. This Wednesday, DC represent the Slicky Boys. Marshall Keith and Kim Kane will be on the show. Excuse me. A week from Wednesday, rescheduled Phil Demmel from Violence and Machine Head coming on. Good dude. Felt bad that he couldn't make it. Got back to me and said, hey, man, I got to do your show. And here he is. Sunday, April 9th, the 3-year anniversary show with Moby talking about his punk rock vegan movie, which I highly recommend. It's got a great punk hardcore history in it. A week from that, Mr. Tim Shaw from Ensign and Fuck It, I Quit. Wednesday, April 19th, Senor Pistachio from H2O. Sunday, April 23rd, Kira from Black Flag. And then, this is a really cool one, Cynthia Ross from the B-Girls. She was engaged to Steve Baders from the Dead Boys. She was around fuck this hardcore nonsense. And even almost this punk shit, she was around Max's Kansas City and all that. This is going to be a great one. And then Sunday, May 7th, Theo from the Lunatics will be on the show. So, lots going on. Lots happening. I want to mention, please support the show. The show needs your support. The show cannot survive without your support. And people support the show. I want to shout out my latest patrons, Bridget Holmes, Jay Banks, Chris DeMonico, and Joshua Sanders. Thank you. Thank you so much. Seriously, this show couldn't fucking exist if people didn't support it. Help me help you. Huh? The show? Support the fucking show. Support the show that supports you. All right? Fuckwad. That's it. Yeah, right. Best sponsors. I know, right? I got the best. Yo, I'm so grateful and so fortunate that this show has found you, that you found this show. That said, sorry, I'm delirious from lack of sleep. What else? Couple other things. I'm freezing up. Am I? Yes. Yo, shout out to Anthony Mio, original Biohazard drummer. You know, that said, I think we are good. Am I forgetting anything? We'll talk about upcoming shows at the next break. I think we are good. But anyway, there's the PayPal address and there's the Patreon address. And please support the show. What can I tell you? Don't make me come looking for you. That said, let's bring our guest back on, Senor Abaddon. What's happening, man?
Whoa.
See, I gotta threaten these motherfuckers to support the show. You know.
Some good stuff in the break there, though.
Yeah. You know, I'm lucky that the show. Hey, you know what I found that's really great? This is a 1980 flyer from City Hall that you talked about. Thin Lizzy plus support. You know, it's City Hall. Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a band, man. What a fucking band. Phil Lynott. Just, oh, man. It didn't matter. They were a band. They were like Motorhead. They had so many different band members.
Sure.
In so many different lineups. But whoever turned up, they fucking just killed, man. As long as Phil was there.
Yeah, they had Gary Moore. They had Brian Robertson. They had a lot of great players in that band.
Fucking Midge Ure. They had Midge Ure in the band.
Did they?
How insane is that? Yeah. Midge was in the band, yeah. Yeah. Mad.
One thing that comes up, which I don't think it's really that relevant, is you guys played with Black Flag at City Gardens, and that's sort of become sort of like a, I think Henry Rollins kind of blew it up, talking about it, but that's an odd combination, man. Black Flag and Venom. That's really a bit of an odd one.
Well, to be fair, even from the first stuff of Metallica, we had to rely on promoters to sort of say, look, you're playing these gigs, blah, blah, blah. This is a brand new band. Young guys, they're called Sepultura, yada, yada, yada. Sepultura turns out to be one of the biggest bands in the world. So it was a good investment from a promoter's point of view. Same with Black Flag, we didn't have a yes or a no on that. We just thought we'll turn up. These guys are going to have They're going to draw some people. They're going to have a different draw to us, maybe slightly different.
Mhm.
And when Henry's doing his word of, his spoken word thing, and he's coming out about Venom and saying this, that, and the other, and it was just quite funny because it wasn't how I remembered it, but that's just how it was,
Yeah,
They
that's
were
usually how it works.
They were very young guys at the time, and they were kind of they weren't blown away by Venom. They were blown away by the whole rock and roll kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they were kind of just like young lads running around in circles, But so Metallica. We brought Metallica to Europe, and they got into lots of trouble for throwing food around the backstage rooms, and it was just like we were always trying to pull them out of bullshit, And it was like,
yeah.
But who wants to be? Who
I
wants
know
to be
this show's a little bit. Go ahead.
That's cool.
This is a shot of you and Johnny Z a little bit later. Could you give us a little take on Johnny? Maybe a nice memory. I know Johnny was a big part of it. Maybe a little perspective on Johnny.
Johnny was he was just so supportive of the whole scene. Didn't matter who the band was. If the band gave it 100%, John was there. John was up for it, Like I say, when we came over, he gave up his house for us. He let us stay in the house. I set fire to his kitchen, which was never a nice thing to do. Him and his wife, Marsha, came across to Newcastle, and Marsha punched me in the mouth for a different thing, which wasn't a nice thing to do. But it was all just, friends. It was just a mad relationship. It always has been.
Sure.
But even up to us getting together to do the Venom Inc. thing, they were traveling with us quite a lot. And it was just so friendly, I mean, the daughter, Ricky, was there quite a lot. And we had some great stories about Ricky when she was a kid, growing up and all this kind of stuff. And they were just such fantastic people. But they knew, John knew how important he was on that level, not on an important as in a multi-gazillion millionaire. He knew he was important to people, like people on the street and people who loved this kind of music, from bands to crew members, promoters, guys doing lights, guys doing PA, all this kind of stuff. John was hands-on with all of them. All the time.
He was a very passionate, driven individual.
Oh yeah, massively. But he never forgot. He never forgot who, who the bands were. Who the bands that were putting the meat on the plate, as it were. They were always looked after. They were always fed and watered, and treated really respectfully. Flights.
Yeah,
He
came from a great background to take care of the bands. He was around a little bit before that and saw music at the Fillmore East and all that. So, here's another guy like Michael Alago, who just loved music. He was a music lover first and foremost. He didn't get into it. He wasn't a lawyer who started a record label or a guy that owned the records. This is a guy that inherently loved music and then got into it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was he was a perfect vehicle at the perfect time that we were coming up, and Neat Records was happening. Like I say, because Neat Records couldn't get a worldwide distribution deal, so they could put out Fist in England, Scotland, Wales, whatever. Maybe dribble some into Europe, but they didn't have proper distribution in Italy. They didn't have it in Spain. They didn't have it in South America. Didn't have it in North America. They didn't have it throughout, Benelux countries. But then when these people stepped in, the Suzulas and people like that, or they all stepped in place, all of these places started being able to knit together and say, right, Venom's got this thing coming out. What can you do slightly differently for the Japanese people? And we go, oh well. we've got a kind of a B-side. We can throw the B-side new single. We can throw that onto black metal. How about that? So it's got different songs on it.
You were connected with Combat Records here. Did Johnny facilitate that? Because it wasn't on Mega. It was Combat here in the States, right?
That's right, yeah. And it was Banzai was in Japan. It was another one up in Canada. Right. And everybody worked together. Everybody facilitated each other, and that's why we tried on the grassroots level to give the odd different B-side for a single, or a different cover for a single that would go on, and it would only be available in Canada. You know, so we were always trying to kind of come up with something original.
That makes sense. Hey, I want to bring a friend of ours on the show. A friend of yours, a friend of mine. He played bass in the Take. Mr. Paul Stone. What's up, bro?
Yo.
How are you, Paul?
Living the dream as usual, my man.
Yeah, good. Hey, so yeah. Hey, here, cheers.
What you got to do on a Sunday if you're not at work?
Yeah.
You know, trying to keep by.
Hey, Paul, tell us a little.
Keep busy.
Paul, tell us a little bit about your connection. How did you come in contact with Venom and Abaddon, and a little bit of your history?
I started listening to Venom in about 1982. Like a lot of kids, read stuff in Kerrang and went, "What the fuck is that? What's all this Satan thing? What's all that?" And I got, I think, Welcome to Hell first, and was just like, why is it sounding like that? How do people make a noise like that? I was used to like Motorhead and Iron Maiden and stuff, and I heard Venom and went, that's so dirty and angry and filthy, and all the Satan thing on top of it. Just like, it was a perfect mix of style and substance for kids like 14, 15 years of age who were pissed off. And me and my mates were all like, we liked Exploited, and we like Discharge, and Discharge and Venom were like the same side of different coins, if you know what I mean. They were like, Discharge were doing this like the D-beat thing, but Venom and Discharge, if you change the lyrics, could be the same band. And we were all like, what's that? And that's how I found Venom. And I used to, when I was on dinner times, I would ring the record label and speak to Diane Davidson at Neat Records, because Neat Records put the phone number in the albums. So you'd get the album and the Newcastle numbers there. So I got home from dinner one time and we had a phone in the hallway because we didn't have mobiles or any shit then. And I rang this number and this woman answered. I'm like, have you got any Venom and Raven promo stuff? And she went, yes, but what's your address? And she sent me a load of shit. And she I don't know to this day if Diane thought I was a record shop or what, but I got this pile of stuff. And I would ring her every month, 6 weeks, and get free shit. And I'd get signed posters, and because I had the Venom stuff on picture disc. So she sent me the record covers to put the picture disc in with the lyric sheets, because I had the picture disc with no lyric sheets. And she sent me all the stuff for free. Oh, it's fucking great.
She never stopped working. Can you imagine being in that little office, one little office off a high street, and the only person dealing with all the bullshit from around the world was her? Yeah. And it was your phone call was multiplied by, I don't know, 10,000 a day. It was insane.
Hey, Abaddon, so what was the sort of the history of Neat Records? Like, how did that, did everything on Venom come out on Neat, or how did that relationship kind of end?
We got up to the live album, and I remember sitting down with a guy from Neat, and he said, you know, this is what we can do with the live album. I said, no, we need to move on. We need to be somewhere else. It's not working. We're still not making any money. You know, we're selling tons and tons of material. We're not getting to the next level. You know, we're doing a live album here, which is because I'd been brought up on you know, Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin. That live album is a pivotal album. You know, when you look at those bands and you look at their first big album, that's, you know, Hell at Hammersmith. That's the big deal. You know, it's made in Japan. You know, and it's like, I'm like, we're at that point. You know, that live or die point. We can't still be on Neat Records. You're not growing the way we're growing. we need to be with a major label. We need to be with somebody putting background into it, backbone into it, and it needs to be something else. And the band at the time as well were pretty much falling apart members-wise.
Sure.
And I think this was probably some of it as well at the same point. I think, you can't separate the two really. And so that was us falling away from Neat Records, and it was just a need to be on something bigger. And I think Neat Records at that point started to lose a lot of bands' interest. A lot of the bands that were coming up weren't interested in being with Neat anymore either.
Sure. I mean, it's safe to say that Venom had sort of a what's the nice way to put the fact that you guys kind of broke up and got back together 3 times. You guys had a volatile. You guys sort of had a volatile and listen, I've been in bands my whole adult life, but Venom's a band that sort of broke up, back and forth a couple of times. Was it always sort of a volatile relationship?
We still do. I'm sitting right here now, expecting a phone call any minute. It's like, we're that kind of band where like, should we do it or not? And it's like, we all know we should do it. We all know we should just fucking act like grown-ups and do it.
Sure.
But who's going to be the first to push the button? That's the problem. And it's like,
yeah,
it needs somebody to come along. I think it needs somebody to come along, like a manager, like a Johnny Z, to come along and take us by the bollocks and say, stop fucking about and just do what you've always been good at doing and just do it some more.
The thing with being a band is, when you're in a band, it's like being married to 3 or 4 other fucking people, and it's just a nightmare.
Exactly right. It's like a bad marriage.
Either.
Yeah, it's like a bad marriage.
Yeah. And sometimes it's not so easy because it's a bad marriage, but you're like tethered to people, and it's not so easy to go start something new. But when you have a history and a legacy with a band and certain people, it is like it's like you had, what it is? It's like you had kids with somebody. You're tethered to them forever, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here you go. Rob says original 3-piece Venom. Come on. Yeah. Let's go.
When we put the thing together, it took a long time. Me and Eric Cook worked together, and it took us a long time to get the other 2 to sit in a room with us.
Sure.
To do ostensibly the Dynamo Festival, and whatever was going to come after that. But it was like we had to sort of say, look, we can have separate cars, we can have separate hotels, we can have separate flights. All you've got to do is 1.5 hours on fucking stage. That's all you've got to do.
That's it.
It's all the old stuff. It's all the old songs. We can get together and rehearse it, and then after that, it's just about 1.5 hours on stage. What's difficult about that?
What's the great line? What do you think? Hall and Oates like each other? They hate each other's guts. That's the great line. What do you think? Hall and Oates? They hate each other's guts, and they do it. That's the go-to.
Simon and Garfunkel want to stab each other to death.
Yeah, sure.
And that's a lot of money to lose if you kill each other. Never mind.
Biohazard just got back together, So that's a big one. And Paul, I just want to put this photo up real quick for those. Paul may look familiar, especially to some of our New York friends. Here's Paul and me on stage at the Incendiary Device show here in New York City a while back. So Paul's got a little bit of a what's the word I'm looking for? You played bass in the Take on the European tour, right?
Yeah. One of the best experiences of my life was playing with Scott and Will. I've known Scott and Will for 20, 30 years. When those guys sent me the message and said, "Will you play bass?" Yeah, I'll fucking play bass. And then to find out I'm playing bass for 3 weeks, supporting Agnostic Front, who I've known for longer. Yeah. That's a party for 3 fucking weeks.
Well, you better start learning them Venom songs next, bro. So,
Well, there's a little. Me and Tony have got a little thing cooking that we can't say too much about for now, but some bands have been in a conversation earlier on today. That might be coming to fruition. Two of the bands that laid the base for DB and for black metal might have a little cross-pollination thing going on.
and you also of course you have your OTP graphics, and you've done a lot of graphics for our friends in Discharge, and of course here's one that you did for Tony, right?
Yeah. I've been doing the artwork because like a lot of things, punk's DIY, and I learned how to do art because I was sick of seeing shit flyers. My band needed to, and every band needs to get eye-catching flyers and artwork and covers to get people in the gigs, to buy people. You know, we were all like metal kids and punk kids. We bought records because they looked great, and I've seen so many good records in shit covers. I'm like, my records aren't going to look like that. So I've started doing artwork for people on the side because my stuff was clearly to their liking. So I do stuff for other people as well, and I love doing it. I've done stuff for Tony. We've got another record coming out that's getting a recover that I've done for him for the Abaddon stuff, Discharge, Israel Joseph, that has been Bad Brains. We've done a cover for him. Rat from Veruca's, Unified Action, another British hardcore. I've done a lot of stuff just recently for really good bands. But I like doing artwork, and I do it for the right reason because it's got to look good. I'm not putting my name on something that looks shit. I'm just not doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there you go. Paul, I want to thank you for stopping by and being a part of the show, man. And, you know, I hope you come back to New York soon and get on stage with us again. That was a lot of fun.
It would be an absolute pleasure, my man. Can I give a couple of shout-outs before I fuck off?
Please. Anybody you want to shout out?
Firstly, I'd like to thank Sir Talk a lot, Sid, the man, the legend who tries to play his bass a little bit and comes on your show a little bit. I think you know him. All the guys in New York, Jimmy Gestapo, and all the people I've known for a fucking really long time. Tony, I'm really glad you're looking well, man. We'll talk soon and we'll get shit together. And I'll see you for the Discharge gig in a couple of weeks. Cannot wait to meet you, man.
See you then, my friend.
Yeah. Almost love to Steve as well. Steve Hoggett, Tony's bass player. Some really good people. Rob Hogg, another supporter of your show I've known a good while. All you people, cheers, my man. I shall see you soon.
Take care. There you go. You know what I want to talk about? I mean, and like I said, we're going all over the place, but you started a production company, and I remember actually, wait, you know what? I'm going to go back a little bit. I was at that Dynamo when you guys played. I was there with Marauder. Marauder played. That was like 95 or 96 or something.
96, think. Yeah.
Yo, I was there with Saab, and I saw you play. I saw you guys play that Dynamo. I did. I was there. Yeah.
That was a
big show. That was a big deal. Big deal.
Yeah. It was such a, because myself and Eric had this production company, and we've been filming the Dynamo, like a 5-camera shoot, and we've done it for like 10 years or so. And we had this family again relationship with the guys who put the Dynamo Festival together.
Sure.
And you know, a couple of them had been Venom fans, and one of the guys, Andre Verheisen, said, why don't you play the Dynamo? Speak to Conrad, speak to Jeff, Cronus Mantis, do the Dynamo Festival. He said, I'm not going to pay you a penny to put in your pocket, but everything you want to do, pyros wise, lasers, every single thing, hydraulics, whatever you want to do, we pay for it. And I was like, that's going to cost you a fucking lot of money, man. And he was like, okay, I'll pay for it. We'll, you know, you play, you speak to the guys, you come over here, you play in my hometown. He says, I guarantee you there's going to be like 100,000 people. You'll never play a gig like it again. And I was like, if I play this one gig and then I die, that'll do me. That's enough. And he was like, go away, work it out, do it. And it took me 2 years. It took me and Eric. Eric did most of the work, but it took us 2 years to make it work.
Wow.
And in the meantime, we were still doing this. The year before We did that. We did 95, which was Biohazard. We
Sure.
did.
You're talking about filming them, right?
Yeah, we filmed them. Yeah, we got
That's it. This was a massive, massive show, man.
I was on the mixing desk. I was standing on the mixing desk watching this, and I couldn't fucking believe it. There were more people on the side of the stage for Biohazard than I've seen in some club gigs.
Yeah, look at
the
that.
people at the side. Look at people at the side. It's fucking insane. It's crazy.
You know, I'm tied in with the Biohazard, story. I did 5 music videos. I produced 5 music videos for them. I tour managed for them. I've done a lot of them, and there's a lot coming up now that I'm going to be involved in. But I must say, in a lot of regards, this was the absolute moment, the peak of this band right here.
I thought so.
This is it. This is it right here.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was standing on the podium that was built for the mixing desk. And I honestly thought I was going to die. I thought that crowd was going to throw the thing over. It was insane. It was fucking insane.
Yeah.
The groove was fucking massive. It wasn't just punk.
That was
It had bad attitude. It had temper. Brilliant.
Yeah. It was, and then the next year is when Venom played. Right?
Yeah, we headlined the Saturday night, and Slayer did the Sunday night. Yeah.
Yeah, that is great. Tell us a little bit about Venom Inc. and how that came together, why that came together, and just sort of, because in just my take on Venom Inc. is a beloved outfit. People love that band. So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, here in Newcastle, we have a festival, a thing called Bro Fest, which I wasn't involved with, but I would go to and observe, and a few of my friends played. And one year, Adam Kraft was supposed to be playing, and I had been involved with Adam Kraft from an early year in the Neat Days, and it turned out to be not really Adam Kraft. It was Tony Dolan, and he'd gotten Jeff Dunn, Mantis, to come along and do a bit. And I was just there in the crowd. I was standing at the bar watching, and they played a few Venom songs. They played Die Hard, I think. And a couple of guys, German guys, were standing at the bar, and they must have recognized me, I guess. And they looked at me and sort of said, "Why aren't you doing this?" And I was like, "I don't know. I would do it, but I wasn't asked."
Sure.
It's in my hometown. I wasn't asked. And a couple of weeks later, I get this. Now we've got social media, whatever. Now I get this message, and it's the promoter. It's Oliver from a festival called Keep It True in Germany. He says, "Look, putting everything aside, if I paid for you to come to Germany, like to fly, and I paid for your hotel, all your drinks, all your booze, all this kind of stuff, will you come and do it?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd do it. What the fuck?" I never said, I've never been against getting Venom back together in any shape or form.
Sure.
So we flew over. They were called Empire of Evil at the time. So Dolan and Jeff Dunn went ahead and did this half a set, and I'm standing kind of side stage, and the drummer gets down, hands me the drum kit, and so I climbed up, and we kind of reintroduced the set, and we laced into Seven Gates of Hell, and we just played this Venom set for about half an hour, and the crowd went absolutely fucking apeshit. And then we started getting phone calls. Can you come to China and do that again? Will you come to Japan and do that? Can you please come to Australia and do this? Will you come and do a full, American tour? And we were like, fucking hell. We didn't expect that. I'm just expecting to go home and get on with life, It's like one gig, go home. But the whole thing lit up, and that band, Empire of Evil, had been trying to get Johnny Z interested in managing them. And John was not interested at all, and the record company weren't interested. And then when we turned out as Venom Inc., suddenly everybody's interested. And Johnny Z's on the phone. Fucking hell, that's incredible. Looks brilliant. Will you come and do? We've got a management company with Chuck Billy, Breaking Bands, and with me and Martha. And will you come?
Chuck from Testament, right?
Yeah. And all of a sudden, everything's back on the table again, and the whole shit's kicking off. And there we go. And we're off around the world 3 or 4 times, and it's like just doing the Venom thing. You know, it's just once again that Venom thing from nothing, you know, 0 to fucking whatever. You know, and it's just insane.
Was it nice? Was it nice having another go around the merry-go-round with maybe some guys that are a little easier to get along with, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it got to a point of, like I say, you get a bit older and you get a bit more aware of each other's personal space and whatever.
Sure.
It was like, it was really good for a while, you know. But it came to a point where I got married. My wife luckily fell pregnant, and there was no way I was going to miss that. And I was like, look, I need to take time off.
Sure.
And I gave them 9 months notice to find a gap.
I gave 9 months, basically from when she told you she was pregnant. The next phone call was, "Hey, you got 9 months, guys."
Look, guys. You know, I'll work up. I'll work up until that month, but then that's it.
That's
and I'm going to have to take time off. So you know, don't schedule gigs.
Yeah.
In that time, which is March that year, which is this time, you know.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I said, look, I'm going to be with my wife, and I'm going to be in the hospital, and that's the end of that. So, and I told John this, and I said, don't book any gigs, and they went ahead and booked gigs, and they got another drummer, and I was like, well, whatever. What can you do?
Yeah.
I was going to be.
Was that it? Did you? Was that it? Did you ever return to the fold, or they just continued with another?
They continued with this other drummer, and they do that until today. I was never going to not be there to support my wife and my baby, you know. So
sure. Well,
like I say, they've just
go ahead.
They just had the birthdays this weekend, so you know, we're doing really well.
Yeah, that's great. Now, didn't you have a bit of a health scare around that time as well?
No, I've had a health scare recently. In the last couple of months, I was diagnosed with cancer, and it sort of came out of nowhere. I woke up one day and I had this huge growing kind of lump on my neck, and I thought, well, that's
man.
It wasn't hurting, and it wasn't making me ill. It didn't do anything. And I went to the doctor, and she said, well, you know, cancer doesn't work like that. It doesn't just come up overnight. And I was like, oh, well, thank fuck for that.
Oh, boy.
She said, well, you know, we're going to have to go, and, you know, you might have to go into surgery and blah, blah, blah. So I went to this other guy up at this hospital, and he was like, yeah. Cancer doesn't grow like that. It doesn't come up overnight. That's not how it works. And I went for a biopsy, came back in to see him again. He said, I'm sorry, but it's cancer, you know, and that's about it. And I was like, oh, right. So what do I do? You know, and he says, well, we'll send you for chemotherapy. We'll send you for radiotherapy. We'll see how it goes. And I was like, okay, so I'm getting everything together to assume that that's the end of that, and just, you know, make a will, sort things out, and that's that, you know. And I started having chemo, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what chemo was. I didn't know, does it hurt? Is it an injection? Is it a tablet? Didn't know, you know. A lot of people don't know, so you panic.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It was very gentle. It was very caring. It was very, very, really, really a nice thing to go through at that time. Yeah, you lose your hair. Yes, you get really skinny. Yes, you catch colds and flu, and anything that's going around. So, but what do? You know, it's like a lot of people have it worse. I went and had radiotherapy just recently, and I'm waiting for a final scan. They've been scanning me all the way through, and it's been really helpful, you know. And you just kind of, you know, you thank yourself that it's working out all right.
Good. Glad to hear that you're okay, and that is the GoFundMe thing still up?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That's a Kickstarter. Is that GoFundMe or Kickstarter?
It's GoFundMe. It's it's just to help with sort of visits back and forth.
So that's it. Anybody out there, there is a GoFundMe out there to help offset Tony's medical costs. So please, it's easy to find. Just Google it and it'll come up. It's out there. But it sounds like you have a good attitude and you're working through it. It's a process.
I think I have. I think it's a type of cancer that they say because it's blood related, there's a good chance it will come back.
That's lymphoma, right?
Yeah. So there's a good chance that it can come back.
Yeah.
It's never necessarily always gone, but I know what to expect now. You know, you're kind of over the hump of being frightened of it. I'm not frightened of it anymore. You know, I'm not worried about what's to come. I'm just thinking if it comes back, you know, we attack it the same way.
Sure, and thankfully you have a family now that to support you and
absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. You know that you have that support. You know,
the support from
not everybody has that, right? You know,
that's absolutely true. And my family being supportive, my family around the world, you know, the rock and roll family, the heavy metal family, the people who get in contact daily to just check in and see if I'm okay. It happens every day. It happens, you know, once an hour there's somebody else. It's incredible.
I'm dealing with it in my family right now as well. You know, I'm right in my family, my immediate family. I'm dealing with the same. You know, it's rough, man. It's rough.
It's brutal.
Yeah. So that said, let me take my quick last sponsor break, and we'll come back and we'll take some questions from around the world. Okay. That's right. It's the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Our guest today is Abaddon from Venom Inc. and Abaddon. And we are sponsored by New York Hardcore Comics, The Organic Grill, the Texas Silver Arts, DTFM Vinyl Distro, Generation Records, Upstate Records, and 126 Hardcore Clothing. They're a streetwear brand for restless individuals who don't compromise. They're about being positive, spontaneous, and true to yourself. For years, they experimented with several printing methods and materials and collaborated with a large number of designers and illustrators, all with perspectives while retaining the hardcore attitude. Get in touch with them. Ramp up your game at www.126clothing.com. Come on now, DTFM Vinyl Distro. Looking for extreme music? DTFM Vinyl has got you. Located on 13th Ave in Fargo, North Dakota, we have the state's best selection of punk, hardcore, metal, ska, oi, and more. Can't make it in? Shop online from anywhere in the country at www.dtfmvinyldistro.com. DTFM Vinyl, where the policy still is and always will be death to false metal. I want to mention we got a couple of shows coming up at the Bowery Electric, a couple of other things, a couple of events here in New York City. If you're coming to town or you're in town, this Sunday, free all ages Sunday matinee. This one is not at the Bowery Electric. We are doing this one at Berlin at 25 Avenue A. Channel 3 is coming to New York from the West Coast. They're celebrating the release of Channel 3 at 40 anniversary box set. And with Incendiary Device, it's going to jump off tonight. War Orphan with Sick of It All, Richie Sip, and our friend Dave Basin, Slashers, and Regicide. April 30th, at the Bowery Electric, free all ages Sunday matinee with Go, first New York City show in 12 years, Crazy Eddie, Down Low, Crippled Earn, and Chum Huffer, DJ Sid the Kid. Sunday, May 24th is Rampage Fest 5 at 2 stages, 7 bands, Reaching Out, Cropsy, Extinguish the Code, Pink Mist, Sewage, Raid, and Disguised. Sunday, May 27th in our beloved Tompkins Square Park. If it's free, it's for me. Leeway, Rebelmatic, Butterbrain, Winterwolf, and Scott Helen's Army of One. This is going to be announced on social media. It's the Kings Never Die record release and signing event at Generation Records on June 3rd. Sunday, June 25th. It's my motherfucking birthday. Me and Steve Zing from Danzig and Sam Hain. He is dusting off his old band Morning Noise for their first New York City show in 35 years. I'm dusting off my old band, The High and the Mighty. Don Foos is coming through from Cleveland. One Life All In. Concrete Ties. Chemical X. Come through. Have a piece of cake. Sunday, July 30th. Bowery Electric Free Show. Dog Eat Dog. Kings Never Die. Dead Crew. Incendiary Device. It's going to jump off tonight. Serial Poets. DJ Sid the Kid. There you go. That's everything that's going. Oh, talk about The Take. Sunday, August 13th. We just announced this at the Bowery Electric. And these are all free shows. These are free Sunday matinees. Come down. You want to talk about community and culture? Come on down. Be a part of it. The Take. Silence Equals Death. Star Car featuring Sab Gray from Iron Cross. Ma'afa, who were great yesterday at the Women of the Pit release compilation at Generation Records, and Mr. Pickle by popular demand, first show in 10 years. So there you go. That's what's happening with that. Listen, everybody else out there that may be watching the show, hey, please support the show. There's the Patreon page there. Patreon is our community within the community. There's a $2 contribute. There's a $2 tier, a $5 tier, a $10 tier, all kinds of stuff available for free for patrons. Please support the show that supports you. Also, we're doing, there's a super chat function. If you have a question for Abaddon, you want to contribute a couple bucks, that helps too. And they come through in color, and I cannot miss them. Here we go. Let's bring our guest back on. Hey, man.
Yo.
Are you ready for a couple questions?
Yeah, why not? Let's have it.
Hopefully nothing too perverse, right?
As long as it's not Rob Barber.
Yeah. All right. Soul Visionary History asks, is there any stories or memories around the recording of Riptide?
Wow. Yeah, it was a kind of one of those songs that was pulled together in the studio. You know, it was a kind of an open riff, and it was just like it didn't really go anywhere, but it was always going to be pacey. And it was kind of like Mantis just started throwing this riff down, and I was like, I climbed on the back of it and just went for it. And then Kronos starts quickly grabbing a pen and throwing these lyrics down, and it's like, it's one of those songs where you could sit down for hours and think about it, and it would never come to you. Sure. But as soon as somebody just starts that chainsaw kind of riff from a drummer, God, you just grab it, you just grab it and go with it.
Fair enough. This is an interesting one, hopefully not too awkward. A, I'm a fan of Venom. B, there is a legendary quote from Lemmy that Venom is the worst band live. What is your thought response to that? Thank you.
No, I think he's probably right. I think the fact that we used to look at these Kerrang polls, and best band and best female singer and blah blah. We were always pissed off if we were never worst band. We wanted to be something that people who considered Bon Jovi to be the best heavy metal band in the world, we thought, well, if that's the best, what does that make us? We have to be the worst thing, And if Lemmy bothered enough and cared enough, somebody as important as Lemmy bothered enough and cared enough about us to even say that he thought we were a pile of shit, that's fucking great for me. That'll do me, because it means that we're doing what we set out to do, which is be taken notice of, not ignored. If you're a band that people are just ignoring, then that's basically the end of that. If you're somebody who is getting on somebody's tit and getting under their skin, and if that person happens to be Lemmy, well, that's pretty fucking cool.
What's the great line? Hey, at least they're talking about you, right?
That's it.
Yeah. Jason Christie asks, were Venom a rap when they wrote Manitou? It seems such an unlikely track for 1984.
Sorry, you broke up there. Were Venom what?
Were Venom aware of rap when they wrote Manitou? It seems like such an unlikely track for 1984.
We were very aware of rap, especially with stuff that kind of Run DMC were doing with Aerosmith,
sure.
and Anthrax were doing, and it was
Yep.
kind of, but we were never, that was never a thing for us. It was never Manitou was never meant to be anything about a rap. It was only about, a lot of Venom songs are about good stories. And Manitou was a story, this Indian heritage thing that the Kronos had bubbling somewhere in his head. And as soon as he started coming up with these lyrics which had a rhythm to them, I found it very easy to start playing. I didn't need to be thinking about I don't know, like tribal rhythms or anything like that. It just happened. It just happened. It became a very drum influenced song.
Mm-hmm.
And if you'd left the guitars out and just had myself and Kronos playing, drums and vocals, it would still have worked. It would still have happened. It would still have worked. So in that way, I guess that's what rap's like. So I can see where the question comes from. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, this is after playing with Slayer and Exodus. Did you ever think that they would have got as big as they did?
Exodus, absolutely.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Is
the
that
first
right?
time I saw Metallica play, I realized that they were full of energy, but I didn't think they were that good. And when when they signed the big management deals and all that sort of stuff started happening, and everybody started getting told to like Metallica, I kind of see that and I go the other way. And sort of the same happened with Slayer a little bit. I was like, yeah, but I've seen all the photographs of you in shorts and things and looking like the fucking Beach Boys.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't really get it, but they got heavier and heavier. But it was all based, I thought, on, and they've admitted this, it was all based on what Venom were doing.
Sure.
Now, Exodus weren't based on that. They weren't based on anything to do with Venom or Satan or, they were just these young kids going out and doing that thing, that thrash thing.
Sure.
Which was linked to Venom, but wasn't, it was its own thing. And I still think they're the best band out of all that era. Always will. Yeah.
I mean, it is common knowledge. I mean, and Slayer makes no qualms about it that they were hugely influenced by Venom. That's not a dirty secret. They give credit where credit's due. In that regard. But I understand what you're saying as far as what Exodus was doing. They were sort of blazing their own trail with the San Francisco thrash thing a little bit. Yeah. For sure.
And they haven't really changed from it. They haven't veered off that. They're just doing it, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't like it, so what? There's no bones, there's no arguments. It's just them.
Yeah, I just saw them play a couple of weeks ago here in New York, and Gary Holt's been on the show, and they're great. The Exodus is still really great. Where is here? John Angeli says, please tell Tony I love him. Hold on, I got a picture to go with it. Hold on, let me clear the deck. I got a picture to go with it. Please tell Tony I love him. We hit it right off from the start, and here's the accompanying photo. There you go. So John wants me to tell you that he loves you, bro.
John Angeli and the words New York City go hand in hand. John's just a really seriously cool guy. He's amazing. He's a fantastic bloke. And
good.
Well, you know what it is. He's just my mate.
There you go. There you go, John. See?
Really cool guy.
Kevin Haggerty asks, can he talk about the writing of At War with Satan, which was a masterpiece?
Wow. At War with Satan came back to front, in my opinion. It started with a lyrical idea, which is almost a book that I think Kronos was going to write, called The Book of Armageddon.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the old story. It was good over evil. It was heaven and hell. It was, all that stuff, all that Milton and Keane, all that, or Keats, all that stuff. And it was pretty much pulled together musically in the studio. We rebuilt the studio. So I was learning more about acoustics. So I rebuilt a drum room within a room. And we kind of pulled it together. And it was always, it's a set of songs, a set of rhythms, which break up into 5 or 6 things, but they run into each other. So it became this. Kronos Conrad was always into this the progressive rock thing. He had this Rush thing going on, this prog rock. So he was always going to do some 20-minute thing, I guess. But you can listen to it as a set of songs as well, because it's got very different guitar parts to it and rhythms to it. It's not my favorite Venom thing, and maybe it could have been better if we'd written it later and spent more time over it. But then again, maybe it would have been a bit plunderous. Maybe it wouldn't have, same as all Venom stuff. Maybe it's better just throwing it at the wall and see what sticks.
Sure. Here's a legit question, which I had in my notes. Do you still plan to play in a band in the near future? What does the future hold?
Well, I'm still getting ill from the treatment from the cancer thing. So I only started rehearsing last Wednesday, and I'm going to rehearse again this Wednesday. And we're doing a festival in the north of England in a place called Ushamoor, which is a beautiful, beautiful setting. And bands like Sodom are playing, some great bands. And Abaddon is going to be on the bill somewhere. We're somewhere in there. And it's a 3-day event.
Wow.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And I think we're on the Sunday. And I'm trying to get well enough to do that. We're only going to be playing maybe 30 minutes, possibly 40 minutes.
But 30 minutes is 30 minutes. I mean, I know you're used to playing long shows, but 30 minutes can be a long time,
Well, from the way I've been feeling, 30 minutes is me getting up to bed,
We play 30 minutes, and I'm like screaming my fucking brains out for 30 minutes, nonstop. For 30 minutes, screaming your brains out. 30 minutes is a lot,
Well, we're going to do a full Venom set.
Is that right?
So we're going to do 30 minutes full Venom set. Old stuff.
Who sings the material?
It's a guy called Steve Hogarth. Steve was in a couple of great punk bands early days, English punk bands, and it's just about he sings and plays bass, and he used to be influenced by Venom when he was younger. He was in a band called Hardcore. I don't know, English punk band called Hardcore.
Okay.
And he just does a really good job. He doesn't do a Kronos. He doesn't do a rip-off. He just does his own thing. He listens to the songs and he thinks, well, this is how I would do it. And it's like, okay, let's go with that.
Here's the last one. Is there truth to this? Hey, Tony, was the band upset that they didn't get to play L'Amour in Brooklyn shortly after the stage blew up at the Paramount show? Is there truth to the fact that you guys were supposed to play L'Amour and you were canceled because of what happened at the Paramount show? Is that right, or is that just myth?
No, that's true. It's because L'Amour was a one that was on our radar. You've got like as you grow up, you've got some venues, obviously like Hammersmith Odeon. You've got
yes, of course,
these places. Santa Monica Civic Auditorium. You've got all these places that you hear about. You hear about Deep Purple played and Sabbath played and blah blah blah. So L'Amour's was always the one that we wanted to be at, and to play. After we'd destroyed Paramount. that became not available.
Yeah, I guess you spooked them,
Yeah, I think they thought, no, we'll leave that alone.
Yeah, that's great. This is interesting. Good one. What was the first live show that you ever went to? What was the first live music that you ever saw?
The first band I ever saw properly at the City Hall was the Runaways.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, weird, huh? the Runaways with
Joe and Jet and Lita Ford and
John Jelly the Ford, Cherry Curry, the whole lot, the proper band,
wow.
and they opened up for Rainbow, Richie Blackmore's Rainbow.
Wow.
So the first band I ever saw, I went to see Rainbow, and there's all these gorgeous girls on stage. I thought, fuck, why not? You know?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, if this is what happens, I'll take some of this. This is good.
That's great. That's great. Well, hey, man. Yeah, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's been great. I really enjoyed it. Anybody you want to shout out? Anything you want to mention?
Oh, thank you so much, man. It's been a great night. I just want to tell you to try and avoid Rob Barber at like every cost. Just stay away. Stay away.
Listen, life is filled with Rob Barbers.
It's full of them. There's hundreds everywhere you turn. There's another fucking Rob Barber. Fuck them.
You just have to navigate through them, man. You know.
Yeah, with a big shitty stick. Go on, Rob. Fuck off.
Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed having you on the show so much. I look forward to seeing you behind the drum set when you come to New York. Me and Michael Alago will come and we'll say hi.
Cannot wait.
All right, take care now.
Good night, man. Good night.
Good night. Well, there you have it. It's the New York Hardcore Chronicles Live. Our guest today was Abaddon from Venom. I hope you enjoyed it at least half as much as I did. It was a great show. It was a great show. But then again, that's what we do. We do great shows, you know? Not a dud in the pile, you know? It was great, man. Yeah, Paul Stone, much for being of it and lending your perspective. And thank you for tutoring me a little bit before the show. You know? Mike Barrett, thank you. Thank you, Mike, for tuning in. And Gertie, Jengles Ball, everybody. Thanks for everybody around the world. Hey, John in London, thanks, buddy. It was a good one. Absolutely. What's next? What is next? This Wednesday, by the way, is the Slicky Boys. So we're doing a show on Wednesday. And then a week from today, I'm playing with Incendiary Device. It's going to jump off tonight with Channel 3 at Berlin. Everybody's welcome. It's a free show. Oh, you enjoyed it, Mark Doyle? Well, good. I'm glad you did, man. Death Rider, it was awesome. Greetings from Greece. All right. Hey, listen, man. If we're doing good in Greece, we're all good, man. We love Greece. Greece has like a strong heavy metal scene, that's for sure. Robert Hogg in Scotland, thank you, buddy, and thanks for all your support. John Angeli, how about that? Got your picture and everything, motherfucker. So there you go. Hey, Steen, how you feeling, brother? And when are you coming to New York, man? Are you coming to New York for the Black and Blue Ball this year? What's going on, bro? What is happening? Is that right, Paulie? Looking forward to the Phil Demmel show. Saw him in Violence at Sundance in '89, and I saw him last year when he was filling with Overkill. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one too. Yep, absolutely. You know, what else? I guess we're good. You know, what else could I say? You were surprised to see him without the sunglasses? Well, you know, can't make it. It's all right. There'll be other ones, brother. There will be other ones. I think why do I feel like I'm forgetting something? What's that? This feeling that I'm forgetting something. Hey, Rob Barber, there he is, bro. Bro, this show cannot exist without you, Rob Barber. You are the new star of the show. So you better come back. Don't make me come looking for you. Don't make me send my New York squad over there looking for you. You better be tuning in to the next show, motherfucker. Yeah, there's always love for Boston. Of course, we love Boston. You know, always. Is that right, Jason Christie? Best chat ever. It was good. It was good, Jason. And you were certainly a chatty Kathy chat room, you know? Yes, that's right. There's a show at Vlad's place tonight. I will be there. By the way, I am celebrating 14 years clean and sober today. Now, that's not for everyone. You can go out and drink. You can go out and smoke. You could shoot dope for all I fucking care. But for me, it doesn't work, and it stopped working a long time ago. My life was a mess. Today is 14 years clean and sober. That's right. So there you go. You know, it's out there if you want it, and if you don't, well, that's your business. You know. Yes, donate to Abaddon's GoFundMe, please. Support him, man. Yes, Davy Hooligan and Serial Poets or Organic Grill. Ever thought of having? I'm not sure, John. Who's Harold O? I'm not sure which Harold. Thank you, Rap Bones. You know, thank you, John. It's crazy. 14 years, man. Thank you. You know, time flies. Time flies. Hey, just me, man. I'm just talking about me and my world. In my world here, I couldn't do what I'm doing if I was drinking and drugging. I couldn't do it. You know, people comment on my work ethic and my focus. That's all possible because I got clean and sober. You know, Victoria, come on now. Where's my Victoria lotion? Hold on. Here it is. It's the Victoria's body butter. What's up? There you go. Did something happen to get you to stop? Yeah, I was a drug addict and an alcoholic, and my life was a mess, and everything kept fucking up again and again and again. And every time I would use, bad things would happen. Jail, institutions, violence. Yeah, it wasn't pretty. Me under the influence wasn't pretty. So, you know, it didn't happen overnight. It was many years of kind of going back and forth, and you know, for me, the party was over. The party was over for a long time. It really was, and I struggled for a time trying to get it together. Yeah, so I'm very, very grateful that I managed to pull my head out of my ass. You know, but that's a whole nother story in itself, and that's something that I very rarely talk about. I'm not comfortable talking about it, but I am comfortable talking about it with my friends like you, the World Wide Web. Oh man, yes, I'm trying to be so. Now we're getting into sober and territory here on the show. Trying to be sober right now, it's very hard. It is very hard, man. It is very hard. You know, find a support system, get a support system. You know, go to AA meetings, go to NA meetings, find a support system. And I'm not here preaching NA or NA on anybody or anything. You know, do you? But this is out there. You know, it's a new podcast. Welcome to the Drew Stone Sobriety Podcast. You know, there you go. All right. Enough of me talking about me. It was a great show. And yes, thanks again, Paul. Yeah. You sober cats are amazing. Hang in there. Straight and alert. That's pretty much it. You know, that's pretty much it. You know. Is that right, Roger Ruff? Welcome back for 4 years, brother. Shout out to Roger Ruff, 4 years clean and sober. Hard. That said, Merle Allen would be a great interview. He would. You know, I don't know Merle. I never saw Gigi Allen back in the day. I avoided Gigi Allen back. That's nothing. I didn't want to there was no interest. I had no interest in going to a show and having some guy throw duty at me. That's not why I was. Hey, Lou Rizzo, congratulations, brother. Hold the line, man. You know, hold the line, Lou Rizzo III. Gigi Allen is gone down as legendary. You know, if he was around today, he'd be playing arenas and throwing his human feces on people. You know? Yep. Hey, Kevin Haggerty Heggs, twisting a doobie for that. God bless you, Heggs. I love you, man. Smoke that reefer until the cows come home, man. Good for you. And good for everybody else out there that's doing their thing. You know, I just know I couldn't carry on like that anymore. Didn't more. Is that right, Shane Embry? Yeah, for sure. He'd be great. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, poop flinging is not my thing. I'm not a big duty flinger. I mean, once in a while I've gotten duty on myself, but I wouldn't throw my duty on anybody else. That said, the singer for Jericho would be a good one. Are you talking about Chris Jericho? There is talk about Chris Jericho coming on the show. Yes. Oh yeah. All right. We'll have to get Shane. Yep. That said, thanks everybody. It was a great show. Couldn't do it without you. I'll see you on Wednesday for the Slicky Boys. Until then, do good things, and good things will come to you.